Let us now continue with our class on the 37 practices of a Bodhisattva. Currently, we are talking about the 4 things that we need to give up as a practitioner according to the sutras. Yesterday, we studied examining one's own confusion, but yesterday I think I placed my emphasis on stop finding faults of the others. But today, in fact, this is something that we're going to discuss further. Yesterday, we needed to focus more on the eradicating our actions that could lead to the loss of faith of the others or lead the others to wrong views. Let's look at the verse over here. It says that if, due to negative emotions, one speaks of faults of other bodhisattvas, oneself will become corrupted. Hence, it is the practice of bodhisattvas not to speak of the faults of those who have entered the great vehicle. If an individual who has entered the great vehicle becomes influenced by negative emotions in general and jealousy in particular, and so judges the behavior of other bodhisattvas and then proclaims their faults, he himself will become stained by downfalls and stray from the path of the great vehicle. Hence, one must control one's speech and avoid speaking of even the tiniest fault of other sentient beings. We are all I will take a sip of water now. Tomorrow we have the same schedule. The empowerment of tomorrow would be similar to today, but day after tomorrow, the empowerment would be more extensive. There will be 35 types of blessed objects throughout the whole ritual. And then I think tomorrow it would be 15 or 17. Anyhow, over here it says that those of you who entered the Mahayana path onto the Mahayana path should not speak of the faults of the others. In particular, one must refrain from speaking of the faults of a person who, in terms of great and lesser vehicles, he has entered the former. This is the practice whereby all bodhisattvas refrain from examining others' faults and from speaking of them. From purposeful expression, it says, do not investigate the faults of others and do not bother with what they have or have not done. We should not be concerned with others' faults. According to Master Yin Guang, he says that at times of practicing meditation or contemplation, one should only look and observe one's own faults and not talk about the others' faults. I think people tend to speak of the faults of the others whenever they have chats with their friends or close ones. I think this kinds of frivolous chats are really not good. If you get too close with the others and started to have those frivolous chatters about the faults of the others, could lead to negative karma as well as impure perception. If you don't have that much of a close relationship with the others and to feel so comfortable in discussing the faults of the others, then it is likely that you won't speak ill of the others. That is why Master Yin Guang said that even during chatting, one should not speak ill of the others. I think nowadays, maybe because the influence of television and TV shows, you get too comfortable in speaking ill of the others. But I think, comparatively speaking, the Tibetans don't really speak ill of the others. Especially if you look at those popular Chinese TV shows, you can see how each of them would speak ill of the others or behind their back. Due to those influence, the influence from the media as well as the influence from the different educational backgrounds, then people tend to speak ill of the others in this day and time. In the compendium of trainings, it says that 3 times during day and night, one bows one's head to all bodhisattvas, even if they always appear engaged in self-pursuits. Do not search for any mistake of theirs, even in the slightest. Whomsoever you encounter in your daily life, they are bodhisattvas. So you should see them without even the slightest faults. Hence, it is taught that it is not permissible to look for even the slightest mistake in any sentient being, and in particular in those who have entered the great vehicle, the Mahayana. In the same way, it is said in the same source that after Tathagata had perceived the actual empowerment, he said, an ordinary individual cannot comprehend the constitution of another individual. Only I and those who are similar to me comprehend the constitution of an individual. And do not judge others saying that he is like this and she is like that. It is only the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, the Tathagatas who had already attained the perfection in the eradication of afflictions as well as the full enlightenment, would be able to fully comprehend the constitution of another individual. Other than that, then no one else can comprehend that. The ordinary beings cannot comprehend that. On the way of our pilgrimage tour to Mount Wutai, even at times of seeing farmers working in the rice field around Chengdu area, we thought that they must be the manifestation of Manjushri. In fact, not only that we should think in such a way during our pilgrimage tours, we should contemplate that while living here, because over here, Larungar is considered as a holy site, as it is like the Mount Wutai of Tibet. So you should really view everybody as bodhisattvas. This is Manjushri, that is Avalokiteshvara. In such a way, we should not speak ill of the others. You should not say that, oh, this person is really pure, but the other person is, I think that person is a spy. We should not make those kinds of rumors. We should not think of our fellow practitioners as, oh, this is a spy, or that one is undercover to pry for some information. We should not think in such a way at all. Even within spies or within those people who are undercover, there are bodhisattvas, there are the manifestations of bodhisattvas. Even if they are, we ourselves are a pure Sangha. We have not engaged in any illicit activities. We are as pure as a lotus flower. We engage in only study, contemplation, and practice every day. We have nothing to hide. There is really no need to create those rumors. Some of the rumors are quite ridiculous, such as that Kemo or a certain Dharma teacher is also a spy, they are not pure, so on and so forth. If you were to make such kinds of perception of our particular center, that is quite faulty. People sometimes would warn me by saying that, oh, be careful, the person that is very close to you could be a spy. Well, so what? I am not in a battlefield, and I am I'm not conducting any illicit activity, so I have nothing to fear. Anyhow, I need to point out that there is no need to look for the faults of the others. In the Seal Sutra of the Development of Faithful Strength, says the following: compared to someone who imprisons all sentient beings out of anger, the one who has become upset with a bodhisattva and sits with his back turned against him, saying that he will not look at the awful one anymore, produces infinite greater evil. And compared to stealing the food of all the sentient beings of this world, to look down on any bodhisattva is of greater faults. Just to simply think that all the foods of the sentient beings of Jambudvipa, if one steals all of that, that kind of negative deeds is great. But what is greater than that negative deeds is, what is worse than that negative deeds is to look down on any bodhisattva. Likewise, in the Seal Sutra, that regards certainty and uncertainty, and in the Sutra of Magical Assertment of utter peace, it is explained how the field of the virtue and non-virtue brought about in relation to bodhisattva will be extremely powerful. The way of the bodhisattva as well states, the one who harbors an evil thought against the bodhisattva, such a lord of generosity, this person will remain in hell for as many aeons as there were moments of his meanness. This is probably in the second chapter. If one angrily says anything unpleasant or defamatory to a bodhisattva who has brought forth the mind of enlightenment, this will become a negative factor. Sometimes out of anger, sometimes jealousy, out of affliction, out of the force of affliction. Of course, sometimes it is, mainly it is very unexpected. When affliction suddenly appears, the way you perceive the bodhisattva's activities could be distorted. And in such a way, if you were to speak ill of the others, then the negative karma could be great. As for the antidote to this, in order to confess the negative deeds as such, it is the virtuous factors of bringing forth the notion that all bodhisattvas are one's teachers and of proclaiming their actual qualities in the 10 directions. According to the sutra requested by Kashyapa, it is said, I give rise to the notion that all sentient beings are my teachers. If you wonder why, it is because one cannot know whether someone's faultiness have matured or not. So this is the best way to contemplate, because we do not know whether their faculties have matured to be a fully enlightened one or not. Since we cannot know someone's faculties, then it is the best for us to view all sentient beings as a Buddha, as a Bodhisattva, as a teacher. This is really the safest way to treat any sentient beings. To all sentient beings, we should give rise to the notion that all sentient beings are our teachers. It is important to train in the pure perception. Also, in Letter to a Friend, it is taught that just as there are 4 types of mango fruit, there are 4 types of human beings. Over here, it means the 4 types of maturation or ripeness. There's the mango that could be ripe on the outside but not inside, or on the outside but not on the inside, or both, or neither. Especially when relating to those who have ripened on the inside but not yet on the outside, one is at the greatest risk of accumulating evil. This is similar to an unseen great abyss or a fire pit covered with ashes, and one is therefore advised to be very careful. If one is neither ripened on the outside and on the inside, this is an ordinary being. There are the bodhisattvas that's ripen on the both on the inside and outside. Those are the Buddhas and bodhisattvas. And there are the ones that ripen on the inside but doesn't appear to be ripen on the outside. Then those are the kinds of objects that's very easy for us to generate wrong views. It's very easy for us to slander such kind of a person because of our limited perception. We need to apply this teaching whenever we see any sentient being that appears to be maybe rather quite crude on the outside. We need to contemplate in such a way that, oh, maybe this person is quite ripened on the inside. Maybe this person simply is manifesting in such a way, but very much ripened on the inside.
For
the reason of accumulating virtuous deeds, we need to perceive everyone as a bodhisattva, all sentient beings as virtuous. Today, I saw two people standing in the shrine hall. One is rather quite thin, and the other one a bit bigger. Maybe the one that is bigger could be considered has already ripened on the inside. I'm not sure. The two people do not have malas and were not chanting. Through their behavior, you can see the level of maturity. They were looking around and they were stepping over the monastics' robes and books. Through their behavior, it seems that they have no respect. Maybe they're very much ripened on the inside, but from my perception or from my observation, it seems that they're not ripened either way. Just as if the ashes were to cover fire, and it seems to be without any heat, but if you were to step on it, and then it's definitely going to hurt you. So we should not speak ill of the others. Furthermore, Lord Atisha has said, do not look for the delusions of others, but broadcast their qualities. We should see all sentient beings as Buddhas. He says that the individuals who already possess the eye of Dharma and the sentient beings who is a mere beginner in the Dharma, you should have the notion of both being your teacher. When looking at sentient beings, see them as your parents or your children. From the six patriarchs teaching the Platform Sutra, he says that we should not look down the beginners, because even the ones of the beginner of the beginners could have the sharpest capacity. When Pontsog Rinpoche was studying in the monastery, he at the time was 20-ish. And on the way to the monastery, he passed by another monastery, and then within that monastery, people from that monastery really looked down at Pontsog Rinpoche because he was really young. And Pontsog Rinpoche debated them, saying that if you were to say that we are beginners, are you all bodhisattvas? And the other person couldn't reply to him anymore. Pontsukron Rinpoche, who may appear to be as an ordinary being, but he indeed is completely matured. I'm sure you understand that. Whether people manifest in whichever way, thin or big or small, or whatever kinds of behavior they may carry out, we should have a pure outlook at them. Some of the great masters at the very beginning of their activity, they tend to be very ordinary, but at the time when the causes and conditions mature, their Dharma activity started to prevalent, to get prosperous. And then Druntumpa also said, leave others' faults alone. This then is virtue. Potowa said the following, all sentient beings possess faults, so do not pay attention to nor think about any of their faults. As well as in general accumulating evil in relation to somebody exceedingly excellent, such as a bodhisattva will be the broom that sweeps away all one's virtue. In particular, this will fling bodhisattva far away. We can never be sure who is a bodhisattva, who is not, and hence do not examine the faults of any sentient being, and especially do not look for faults in your teacher, in your master. At the time when we were on the pilgrimage tour to Mount Wutai, we encountered all sorts of people from different walks of life. Some are beggars, and some may manifest as different ways. But according to the biography of great masters, they all stated that maybe because of our coarse karma, our negative karma, certain bodhisattvas only manifest to us, or we can only perceive the bodhisattvas in the form as someone who sweeps the floor, or someone who is of a lowly status. We should not only consider that the ones who are sitting on a Dharma throne are the greatest, but the ones working, sweeping the yard is the lowly one. We should practice sacred outlook. Karagpa said, the outer behavior of the master who teaches the great vehicle might not be beautiful, but since you do not know his inner realization, do not conceive of faults in the master. Some of the teachers may have different kinds of manifestations. Some may manifest as someone who enjoys dancing or singing. For example, Pontsukron Rinpoche, he really enjoyed dancing. He would dance the Vajra dances and started singing. As a Theravada practitioner, they may think the behavior of Pontsukron Rinpoche dancing is not a proper behavior. But when we look at the great masters, such as the 86 great siddhas of India, or lots of the Ngakpas of Tibet, their particular behavior may not be all so-called very proper, but their inner sacred meaning or sacred intention cannot be detected by us, cannot be perceived by us. Larry Tampa then explained, an individual cannot grasp the capacity of another individual, so do not belittle anyone. Those of you who had been practicing for a long period of time, if you don't feel that you are progressing along the path, then maybe you should contemplate about the negative karma that you've accumulated from your three gates, the body, speech, and mind, especially the speech. If your body, speech, and mind is not pure, then even staying in such a pure center, that is Larangar, for 100 years, I don't see how you can progress along the path if you don't purify your three gates. If you were to speak of the faults of the others, if you were to generate all kinds of afflictions such as anger, jealousy, and arrogance, and accumulate all kinds of the 10 non-virtuous deeds, then how could you to engage in actual practice. According to Chikakwa, he said that do not point out anyone's handicap. That is to say that, you should not speak of others' shortcomings or others' low status as such. For example, this person used to be a butcher, or that person used to be a prostitute. You should not speak of such. He continued in this way. They taught that it is not right to speak of faults of others, saying that someone has deranged discipline and so forth. Moreover, it is in general inappropriate to think about the faults of any sentient being, and in particular to think the faults of someone who has entered the door of Dharma. I hope all of you would be able to speak the positive qualities of the teacher, of the lineage, and talking about, this is taught in Abhidharma so-and-so in this way and in that way. You should speak in such a way, rather than, I think there are people who would lower their voice and started whispering the faults of the other, saying that, I heard so-and-so. I heard this teacher was very closely affiliated with the police department, very close to them. When I went out, I saw them. I'm sure this teacher has some hidden agenda. I know another person who's very closely affiliated with them too. Wow, even the senior practitioners started to laugh. That's quite rare. In general, chatter is pointless. Now virtue increases, and in particular through despising others, one will be brought down and become stained by flaws. Attachment and aversion will increase, and in particular the person and the Dharma will separate. Therefore, be terrified about despising others. Moreover, Gyaltse Tokme continued, when due to jealousy, to despise Dharma and individual, out of jealousy, if one were to despise Dharma and individual, then one's virtue would decrease and others' mind would become disturbed. Therefore, except when it is for the definite benefit of others, do not express others' faults. Well, unless it is that you're of the a supervisor of a team, and you know that pointing out the faults of others would be helpful. Other than those kinds of situations, you should not express others' faults. I myself, I do not speak of the faults even with the ones who are very close to me. I think it's necessary that even if you were to have a very close relationship with certain people, you should not speak ill of the others or behind others' back. A few days ago, I've mentioned that a person can be observed through one's body and one's speech. You would be able to see that person's mind through the body and speech. According to the Tenbumi Sutra, it says that through making observation of the water bird, you would be able to know whether there's water, and by seeing the smoke, you would know that there's fire. Through the body and speech, you would be able to see a bodhisattva's wisdom. For that reason, we should be able to make the observation of a person's mind by making observation of one's speech. Gyaltse Tokme himself also practiced in this way.